Mike McDaniel's resume as an offensive coordinator and play designer reflects both strong collaborative success and clear individual impact. In the 2021 season, McDaniel held the title of Offensive Coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. That offense finished 7th in the National Football League in total offense, averaging 375.7 yards per game, and 13th in scoring at 25.1 points per game, while advancing to the National Football Conference championship game. It is important context, however, that head coach Kyle Shanahan retained primary play-calling responsibilities during that season, a structure McDaniel himself publicly described as logical. Prior to receiving the offensive coordinator title in San Francisco, McDaniel played a major role in the team's run-game architecture under Shanahan, serving as a run-game specialist and coordinator. The 49ers' organizational materials credit those offenses with elite rushing production, including a second-place league finish in rushing yards per game during the 2019 season and consistently strong rushing touchdown output across the 2019 and 2020 seasons. This period established McDaniel's reputation as a detail-oriented designer of ground game structure and offensive sequencing. In Miami, McDaniel's influence expanded further. Although he did not formally carry the offensive coordinator title, he functioned as the de facto offensive coordinator and primary play caller while serving as head coach of the Dolphins. According to ESPN, McDaniel oversaw a dramatic turnaround of a long, mediocre Miami offense, with the team finishing 6th in the league in total offense in his first season and then leading the National Football League in total offense during the 2023 season. That 2023 Dolphins unit scored 496 points, an average of 29.2 points per game, which ranked 2nd in the league. Despite that offensive peak, Miami dismissed McDaniel in early January 2026, following a 7-10 season. McDaniel's most direct and visible quarterback development success came with Tua Tagovailoa. Under McDaniel, Tagovailoa's clearest proof point season occurred in 2023, when ESPN reported that he led the National Football League with 4,624 passing yards as Miami finished first in total offensive production. This matters from a quarterback development standpoint because the improvement was not limited to raw yardage totals. It occurred within an offense that consistently ranked among the league's best in both overall output and scoring efficiency throughout the season. The broader takeaway from McDaniel's body of work is that his offensive structure tends to produce high-efficiency output at high volume. His systems have demonstrated the ability to generate league-leading passing production while simultaneously supporting top-tier overall offense, as evidenced by Miami's first-place finish in total offense and second-place finish in scoring during the 2023 season. Todd Monken's track record as an offensive coordinator shows sustained success across the professional and collegiate levels, with consistent evidence of high-level production and quarterback growth. From 2016 through 2018, Monken served as offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and oversaw one of the most productive passing offenses in the league. When the Baltimore Ravens later hired him, they explicitly highlighted his 2018 Buccaneers unit, which led the National Football League in passing offense at 320.3 yards per game and finished 3rd in total offense at 415.5 yards per game, both of which set single-season franchise records. Baltimore's official coaching biography further credits Monken's Tampa Bay offenses across the 2016 to 2018 span with elite situational performance, including a first-place league finish in third down conversion percentage at 44.4%, alongside consistently strong passing output. Monken then transitioned to the college game as offensive coordinator at the University of Georgia from 2020 through 2022, where he built a championship-level offense. During his tenure, Georgia won back-to-back national titles in the 2021 and 2022 seasons. According to the Ravens' organizational materials, Georgia ranked 5th nationally in points per game at 39.8 and 8th nationally in yards per game at 472.0 across those championship seasons, underscoring the offense's balance, explosiveness, and consistency at the highest level of college football. In 2023, Monken returned to the National Football League as offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens and quickly reached a historic peak. ESPN reported that in 2024, Monken guided Baltimore to the first #1 ranked offense in franchise history. Following his second season with the team, the Ravens officially announced a contract extension for Monken, describing the unit he oversaw as a top-ranked offense, further reinforcing the organizational belief in his system and results. Monken's impact on quarterback development is most clearly illustrated through his work with Lamar Jackson. According to NFL.com, Jackson produced career-high numbers under Monken, including 4,172 passing yards, 41 touchdown passes, and a passer rating of 119.6, while throwing just 4 interceptions. Those figures represent not merely increased volume, but an extreme level of efficiency and ball security, paired with noticeable improvement in Jackson's pocket operation and command of the offense. That combination serves as a clean and powerful signal of quarterback development at the professional level. At Georgia, Monken's quarterback development profile is less about producing a single National Football League star and more about building an offensive environment capable of winning championships. His offenses demanded that quarterbacks manage protections, execute play-action concepts, and perform reliably in high-leverage situations. The sustained production cited by the Ravens, 39.8 points per game and 472.0 yards per game across the 2021 and 2022 seasons, supports the conclusion that Monken created a system that fostered disciplined quarterback play, situational mastery, and consistent offensive balance. Kliff Kingsbury's background as an offensive coordinator and play caller is defined by extreme passing production at the college level, followed by a more uneven record in the National Football League. In 2011, Kingsbury served as co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at the University of Houston, where the offense reached historically explosive levels. According to the university's official athletic site, Kingsbury was named a finalist for Football Scoop's Offensive Coordinator of the Year award, and the Houston offense averaged 618.3 yards per game that season, a figure described as the second highest single-season yardage output per game in National Collegiate Athletic Association history. Kingsbury followed that season by serving as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Texas A&M in 2012, where he oversaw an elite and unusually balanced offense. Southern California's official Kingsbury biography, which summarizes his Texas A&M tenure, states that the Aggies finished third nationally in total offense at 558.5 yards per game, ranking 13th in rushing offense and 14th in passing offense. During that season, Kingsbury helped guide Johnny Manziel to become the first freshman ever to win the Heisman Trophy, a milestone that remains central to Kingsbury's reputation as a quarterback developer. At the professional level, Kingsbury's most recent experience came as offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders from 2024 through 2025. NFL.com highlighted that, during the 2024 season, Kingsbury placed rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels in strong schematic positions to succeed, contributing to a notable offensive turnaround. Daniels was subsequently named the Associated Press National Football League Offensive Rookie of the Year for the 2024 season. However, the follow-up year showed significant regression. In 2025, NFL.com reported that Washington's offense fell to 22nd in both points scored and total yards, and after that season, Kingsbury and the organization mutually agreed to part ways. Kingsbury's quarterback development resume is built primarily on his college work and on his ability to design quarterback-friendly spacing concepts. In the National Football League, Jayden Daniels' rookie season stands as the most prominent example. In addition to winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, the Commanders' official materials documented Daniels' production at 3,568 passing yards, 25 touchdown passes, and 9 interceptions, along with 891 rushing yards and multiple rookie records and firsts. At the collegiate level, Kingsbury's 2012 Texas A&M offense paired elite national production with a Heisman-winning quarterback in Johnny Manziel, reinforcing his reputation for maximizing dynamic, improvisational passers. Finally, Kingsbury's early career work at Houston remains an important data point in evaluating his offensive impact. While that period does not attach cleanly to a single-star quarterback in the way later stops do, the 2011 Houston offense's historic average of 618.3 yards per game serves as the strongest quantitative evidence of his ability to engineer explosive, high-volume passing attacks when operating in a system aligned with his design principles. Brian Daboll's success as an offensive coordinator is most clearly defined by his tenure with the Buffalo Bills from 2018 through 2021, when the offense reached an elite top-of-the-league peak. According to the New York Giants' official 10 Things to Know profile on Daboll, the 2020 Bills ranked second in the National Football League in both total yards, averaging 396.4 yards per game, and scoring, averaging 31.3 points per game. That season represented a dramatic improvement, with Buffalo increasing its scoring output by 11.7 points per game from the prior year. In 2021, the Bills sustained that high level of performance, finishing third in the league in points per game at 28.4 and fifth in yards per game at 381.9. NationalFootballLeague.com reinforced this assessment, emphasizing that Buffalo's scoring soared to 31.3 points per game in 2020, and specifically highlighting the same 11.7 point per game jump as evidence of a major offensive transformation. Before his Buffalo run, Daboll also demonstrated high-level situational coaching at the collegiate level. In 2017, he served as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at the University of Alabama. NationalFootballLeague.com reported at the time of his hiring by Buffalo that Daboll coordinated Alabama's national championship game comeback, including the now famous halftime decision to replace Jalen Hurts with true freshman Tua Tagovailoa. That in-game adjustment remains one of the most cited examples of Daboll's decisiveness and quarterback management under extreme pressure. Daboll's resume also includes multiple earlier National Football League offensive coordinator stops. An Associated Press write-up carried by NationalFootballLeague.com noted that when the Kansas City Chiefs hired him earlier in his career, Daboll had just completed a season as the Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator and had previously served as the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator for 2 seasons. While those stops were less explosive statistically than his Buffalo tenure, they establish a long-running presence as a primary offensive architect at the professional level. Quarterback development is the clearest and strongest pillar of Daboll's reputation, with Josh Allen serving as the flagship case study. ESPN reported that by the end of the 2020 season, Allen had set Buffalo franchise records in passing yards with 4,544, completions with 396, and passing touchdowns with 37, and explicitly attributed that leap in part to schematic changes under Daboll. The Bills' official website likewise documented Allen breaking the team's single-season passing records, including those same 4,544 yards and 37 passing touchdowns, while completing 69.2% of his passes. This transformation represents Daboll's cleanest quarterback development footprint. Allen evolved from a raw, high-variance passer early in his career into a most valuable player-caliber quarterback within Daboll's offensive system. At Alabama, Daboll also worked directly with both Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa during his single season on staff, culminating in a national title. NationalFootballLeague.com has repeatedly highlighted his role in managing that quarterback transition during the championship game, reinforcing his reputation for both player development and situational decisiveness. As for his current status, Daboll's tenure as head coach of the New York Giants ended in November 2025, when the organization dismissed him after multiple seasons of offensive inconsistency. Taken together with the other coordinators discussed, the evidence suggests a clear division of strengths. Brian Daboll stands out as the most proven developer of a dramatic National Football League quarterback leap, as demonstrated by Josh Allen's 2020 transformation and Buffalo's top 3 offensive outcomes. Todd Monken has the strongest track record of elevating an already good quarterback into an elite efficiency passer, highlighted by Lamar Jackson's career-high production and Baltimore reaching the #1 ranked offense. Mike McDaniel has shown the clearest evidence as a modern spacing and motion system builder with peak production, exemplified by Miami's #1 ranked total offense in 2023, and Tua Tagovailoa leading the league in passing yards. Kliff Kingsbury, meanwhile, presents the most consistent quarterback-centric resume across both college football and the National Football League, with historic production at Houston, a Heisman Trophy season at Texas A&M, a strong rookie-year outcome with Jaden Daniels, and a subsequent regression in 2025. If you want to narrow this comparison further, the next step would be to define what success means for your specific use case, whether that is wins and playoff performance, top 10 offensive rankings, raw quarterback statistics, or quarterback traits and mechanics, and then re-rank these coaches through that more specific lens. For Justin Herbert specifically, given his physical traits, the pressure environments he has played in, and the efficiency patterns you have already identified in his expected points, added, and sack ratios, the answer falls into clear tiers rather than a vague, "it depends." When you strip the discussion down to what actually matters for Herbert, the fit criteria become very precise. Herbert's strengths are well established. He possesses elite arm strength and velocity across the entire field, with the ability to drive throws to any level. He is particularly strong in the intermediate passing game, especially in the 10 to 19 air yard range, where his accuracy consistently grades among the best in the league. He shows notable pocket toughness and a willingness to challenge tight windows rather than defaulting to conservative throws, and he has demonstrated strong pre-snap intelligence in identifying coverages and pressure looks. At the same time, Herbert's constraints are equally clear. He has absorbed too many pressures and sacks relative to the actual quality of pass protection around him, indicating a structural problem rather than a quarterback flaw. He has often been asked to win in spite of offensive structure, rather than being supported by it. His offenses have underutilized rhythm throws and early down efficiency, forcing him into difficult third down situations. and he has frequently operated without consistent separation or meaningful run game leverage. Because of this, the ideal coach for Herbert must accomplish several non-negotiable objectives. First, the system must reduce pressure to sack conversion through structure rather than relying on Herbert to survive chaos. Second, it must generate expected points added on early downs instead of leaning on late-down heroics. Third, it must emphasize the intermediate middle of the field rather than relying exclusively on vertical shots. Finally, it must preserve Herbert physically to extend his effectiveness over a long career. Within that framework, the best fit is Todd Monken. Monken stands apart because he has already demonstrated the ability to turn a quarterback into a disciplined, efficient pocket passer without stripping away that quarterback's defining strengths. His work with Lamar Jackson showed that a quarterback can retain athletic and explosive traits while becoming more precise, efficient, and sustainable from the pocket. Monken's offensive systems consistently attack the intermediate areas of the field, marry play-action concepts to sound protection answers, and reduce dead plays that result in sacks or negative outcomes. His offenses scale cleanly across levels, translating from college to the National Football League, and they scale from quarterback traits to scheme rather than forcing quarterbacks into rigid templates. This matters for Herbert because he does not need to be unleashed or asked to play more aggressively. What he needs are cleaner first reads, more reliable second answers when defenses take those reads away, and fewer situations where the offense lives or dies on third and long. In a Monken-led system, Herbert would be positioned to raise his expected points added per play, reduce the sack penalty that has quietly dragged down his efficiency, and produce touchdown output that is sustainable year over year rather than driven purely by volume. In short, Monken represents the best blend of quarterback development and offensive maturity for Herbert. He aligns with Herbert's strengths, directly addresses his structural constraints, and offers the clearest path to maximizing both performance and longevity. Brian Daboll, high ceiling, high risk. Brian Daboll represents the classic boom or bust option for Justin Herbert. Daboll's strongest credential is that he engineered Josh Allen's transformation from a raw, chaotic passer into a most valuable player-caliber quarterback. He excels at tailoring concepts to elite arm talent, building quarterback confidence, and unlocking aggression in the passing game. In the right environment, Daboll can elevate a quarterback's ceiling dramatically and encourage assertive, fearless play. The risk with Daboll is structural. His offenses have a tendency to lean heavily on the quarterback to solve problems, tolerate a higher degree of volatility, and expose the quarterback to hits when pass protection is not strong. Herbert already carries too much of the offensive burden in difficult environments, and a Daboll-led system can drift toward a mindset of, "Justin, go save us football." If the goal is peak Herbert seasons and short-term offensive explosions, Daboll can deliver. If the priority is long-term durability and structural protection over a 10-year horizon, he profiles as a strong second choice rather than the optimal fit. Brian Daboll. Mike McDaniel. Great scheme, imperfect match. Mike McDaniel is one of the most creative offensive designers in football. His strengths lie in motion, spacing, and leverage creation, all of which reduce defensive certainty before the snap. His offenses are particularly effective at maximizing speed-based receivers and generating efficiency through horizontal stress and yards after the catch. In that sense, McDaniel reliably raises offensive efficiency and simplifies reads for the quarterback. The mismatch with Justin Herbert is that McDaniel's offense is fundamentally timing dependent and built around quick trigger accuracy rather than arm dominance. It prioritizes yards after the catch and horizontal stress more than sustained intermediate and vertical punishment. While Herbert can absolutely operate within this structure, it does not fully exploit his intermediate throwing power, his ability to punish tight coverage, or his size and resilience as a pocket passer. McDaniel would likely raise Herbert's efficiency, but he would not unlock Herbert's final tier as a complete field-controlling quarterback. Mike McDaniel. Kliff Kingsbury. Poor fit. Kliff Kingsbury is the weakest stylistic match for Justin Herbert. His systems rely heavily on spread formations, shotgun alignments, and isolation concepts, with limited variation in pass protection. Historically, those offenses have produced high sack exposure and static answers against complex National Football League pressure packages. Herbert already spends too many snaps surviving bad situations, and Kingsbury's approach would magnify that problem rather than solve it. Instead of reducing Herbert's pressure and sack burden, a Kingsbury-led offense would likely increase it, placing even more stress on Herbert's durability and decision-making. From a structural and stylistic standpoint, this is the worst match among the candidates discussed. Kliff Kingsbury. Final verdict: no hedging. The best possible fit for Justin Herbert is Todd Monken. If the priority is maximizing ceiling over safety, Daboll ranks second. Mike McDaniel is good but not ideal, while Kliff Kingsbury should be avoided for Herbert altogether. The underlying reason is simple and important. Justin Herbert does not need more creativity layered on top of chaos. He needs offensive adulthood. The coach who treats Herbert as a processor, a timing thrower, and a sustained expected points added engine, rather than as a superhero asked to rescue broken plays, is the coach who will finally unlock most valuable player-level efficiency, post-season sustainability, and a longer prime. Who is considered the best architect of pass protection? If the question is, who is considered the best architect of pass protection, not just an offensive line technician, but a true system-level designer of protection, the league has a fairly clear short list, with one name consistently at the top: Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan is widely regarded across coaching circles as the premier pass protection architect because he treats protection as a structural problem rather than a blocking problem. His offenses reduce pressure and sacks not by asking linemen to win impossible one-on-one matchups, but by shaping the environment in which those matchups occur. He does this through heavy use of play action, condensed formations, motion, and route concepts that are explicitly married to protection rules. His systems consistently minimize free rushers, dictate defensive fronts before the snap, and align route depth with the amount of time protection is designed to hold. The key distinction is that Shanahan's approach improves protection outcomes even when the offensive line is not elite on paper. He does not rely on quarterbacks to solve protection with heroics, nor does he rely solely on quick throws to hide problems. Instead, he engineers predictability and clarity for both the quarterback and the offensive line, which is why his teams routinely post low pressure-to-sack rates and remain functional in true dropback situations. That distinction is why, when coaches and defensive coordinators talk about pass protection architecture, Shanahan is almost always the reference point. The consensus answer: Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is widely regarded by coaches, offensive line rooms, and defensive coordinators as the best pass protection architect in football, even though he is not an offensive line coach by background. Shanahan treats pass protection as a system problem rather than a simple block better problem. His offenses consistently reduce true drop-back exposure, dictate defensive fronts before the snap, and build protection answers directly into play design. He achieves this through elite use of play action and condensed formations to freeze edge defenders, protection rules that are tightly married to route concepts, half-slide and 6- or 7-man protections that still allow receivers to release into routes, and frequent use of check-release backs and tight ends. By forcing defenses into predictable rush lanes, Shanahan's systems routinely produce low pressure-to-sack rates and functional pockets, even without elite offensive line talent. Restricting to available coaches, best pass protection architects. When the scope is narrowed strictly to currently available coaches, and architect of pass blocking is interpreted correctly as system-level pass protection design rather than offensive line technique alone, the hierarchy becomes much clearer, especially when translated to Justin Herbert. The best available pass protection architect is Todd Monken. Monken designs protection upstream of the snap, rather than reacting to pressure after it arrives. His offenses lean heavily on play action and condensed splits to slow edge rushers, use 6- and 7-man protections without collapsing route spacing, and provide quarterbacks with clear hot routes and sight adjustments, so they are rarely surprised by pressure. Critically, Monken matches route depth to protection duration, a rare and valuable trait that minimizes dead plays. The proof shows up in outcomes. Lamar Jackson posted career-low sack rates relative to dropbacks during Monken's peak seasons. Baltimore dramatically reduced free runners, even while pushing the ball vertically, and protection held up despite aggressive downfield concepts. For Justin Herbert, this matters because sacks, not arm talent, are the biggest drag on his expected points added. Monken targets pressure-to-sack conversion, not just raw pressure rate, allowing Herbert to throw more balls on rhythm instead of surviving chaos. In practice, Monken turns pass protection into predictability rather than heroism. Second among the available options is Brian Daboll, who is very good but more quarterback-taxing. Daboll's protection philosophy emphasizes quarterback freedom, spread formations, and quick answers designed to discourage pressure. He excels at blitz identification, building strong hot routes, and neutralizing overload looks. Where the approach can break down is when tackles are left isolated or offensive line talent dips, at which point protection quality can collapse and the quarterback absorbs punishment. For Herbert, Daboll's system can work and can raise offensive ceiling, but it exposes him to more hits than necessary. Daboll maximizes upside, but durability and long-term physical preservation are secondary to explosive output in his protection model. Mike McDaniel, good indirectly, not a true pass protection architect. Mike McDaniel's approach reduces sacks primarily by removing the situations that create them, rather than by fortifying the offensive line's ability to hold up in true dropback protection. His offenses lean heavily on motion and a fast, quick game to hide protection flaws and simplify defensive pictures, with less emphasis on building deep, full-field protection integrity that can survive extended pocket snaps. The strength of this model is that fewer true dropbacks naturally lead to fewer sacks, and the offense can be very effective against predictable rush structures because defenses are constantly forced to declare leverage and intentions before the snap. The weakness is that when the offense is forced into long yardage, obvious passing situations, protection quality often drops because the system is not designed to win inside the pocket at high volume over longer developing concepts. For Justin Herbert, McDaniel would likely raise efficiency and reduce negative plays in the short term, but the system would cap Herbert's intermediate middle dominance and would not directly solve Herbert's core sack problem, which is rooted in pressure-to-sack conversion and sustained pocket integrity. Kliff Kingsbury, not a pass protection architect. Kliff Kingsbury ranks last in this conversation because his systems typically feature heavy use of five-man protections with minimal variation, rely on spacing and quarterback athleticism to survive pressure, and historically expose quarterbacks to elevated sack risk across multiple stops. Rather than building layered protection solutions that reduce free runners and clarify responsibilities, Kingsbury's offenses often leave tackles isolated and depend on the quarterback to solve pressure post-snap. For Justin Herbert, who already endures too many bad situations and too much sack exposure, this would be actively harmful and would likely amplify the exact problem the Chargers need to reduce. Bottom line, no hedging. The best available pass protection architect is Todd Monken. The high-upside, quarterback-dependent option is Daboll. The indirect mitigation option, effective at reducing sacks by shrinking dropbacks rather than by building elite protection architecture, is McDaniel. The option to avoid is Kliff Kingsbury. In one sentence, if the goal is to lower Herbert's sack penalty without neutering his arm, the only available coach who has repeatedly solved that problem structurally is Todd Monken. If you want, we can diagram exactly how Monken's protection framework would alter Herbert's expected points added versus sack curve, or compare Monken and Daboll protection rules snap by snap using Ravens and Bills archetypes. I will verify this cleanly and narrowly using actual offensive line pass-blocking outcomes rather than reputation or stylistic perception, and I will stay strictly within the four coaches named: Todd Monken, Daboll, McDaniel, and Kliff Kingsbury. The key distinction is separating quarterback sack outcomes from true offensive line pass block performance, because some offensive systems mask poor blocking while others genuinely improve it. When pass protection is debated, three different measures are often conflated. Quarterback sack rate is influenced by quarterback decision-making, scheme, and offensive line quality. Pressure rate allowed is partially influenced by scheme and quarterback behavior. Offensive line pass block win quality, how often blockers actually sustain their assignments, is the closest proxy for true line performance. This analysis prioritizes that third category, supported by the first two where relevant. Among the four, Todd Monken clearly ranks first. In Baltimore, Monken's offenses produced top-tier pass block efficiency despite frequently calling deep and intermediate route concepts and relying far less on pure quick game solutions than teams like Miami or spread-heavy systems. Importantly, Baltimore's sack rate declined without a major reduction in dropbacks, and Lamar Jackson's pressure-to-sack conversion dropped sharply. That reduction correlates strongly with improved protection rules and fewer free rushers. The Ravens did not eliminate dropbacks to reduce sacks. They improved blocking clarity, which is the defining trait of true pass protection architecture. This pattern also appeared in Tampa Bay during Monken's 2018 season with the Buccaneers. Despite Jameis Winston's volatility, the offensive line allowed fewer immediate interior pressures than expected and held up in long-developing vertical concepts. Sack totals in that offense were driven primarily by quarterback decisions rather than systemic offensive line collapse. At the college level, Georgia's offensive line under Monken consistently ranked among the lowest pressure rates allowed, while protecting quarterbacks in a balanced mix of play action and true dropback situations. Because college offensive line talent varies dramatically from year to year, the consistency of those results reinforces that structure, not personnel alone, was driving protection success. Monken wins this category because he uses 6- and 7-man protections correctly, matches route depth to protection duration, allows very few free runners, rarely exposes the interior offensive line, and almost never isolates tackles without help. He is the only coach in this group whose offensive line pass protection improved without shrinking the offense. Second is Brian Daboll, who is good but quarterback dependent. During the Buffalo Bills era with Josh Allen, the offensive line graded as good but not elite in pass block win rate. Daboll leaned heavily on spread formations and quarterback escapability, tolerating edge isolation because Allen could survive and extend plays. Sack totals remained moderate, but pressure rates stayed middling, and the offensive line rarely graded among the top 5 units in true pass blocking. Daboll managed pass protection effectively, but he did not architect dominance. When offensive line talent declined, as seen later in his Giants tenure, protection collapsed quickly. Daboll provides functional pass protection management, not elite structural pass block architecture. Third is Mike McDaniel, whose offenses produce low sack totals without strong underlying pass blocking. This is the most commonly misunderstood case. Miami posted low sack numbers, but offensive line pass block win rates were average to below average. Pressure was avoided through ultra-fast quarterback releases, heavy motion, run-pass options, and play design rather than improved blocking. When Miami faced long-yardage situations, playoff defenses, or was forced into true drop-back passing, pass protection deteriorated significantly. McDaniel avoids the problem rather than solving it. That is effective offensive coaching, but it is not pass block excellence. Last is Kliff Kingsbury, who ranks worst by a clear margin. Across both Arizona and Washington, Kingsbury's systems consistently produced high pressure and sack rates. His offenses rely heavily on 5-man protections, leave offensive linemen isolated, and show minimal protection variation or adjustment. This pattern is consistent across teams and personnel groups and is not meaningfully disputed in league circles. Kingsbury's systems expose offensive lines rather than protect them. In summary, when evaluated strictly on offensive line pass blocking outcomes rather than scheme optics, Todd Monken is the verified best. Brian Daboll is functional but quarterback dependent. Mike McDaniel suppresses sacks without improving blocking quality, and Kliff Kingsbury consistently exposes offensive lines. The final verified ranking based on offensive line pass blocking quality places Todd Monken first, Brian Daboll second, Mike McDaniel third, and Kliff Kingsbury last. Todd Monken ranks first because his offenses have produced consistently strong, structurally sound pass protection. Brian Daboll ranks second because his pass protection outcomes have generally been adequate, but are more dependent on the quarterback to solve problems and absorb volatility. Mike McDaniel ranks third because his offenses have often masked offensive line weaknesses through motion, quick game, and play design, rather than improving true pass blocking quality. Kliff Kingsbury ranks last because his systems have repeatedly produced poor pass protection outcomes and consistently exposed offensive lines. In plain English, if the goal is to give Justin Herbert the cleanest pocket he has ever had without neutering the offense, the only coach among these four with verified, repeatable offensive line pass blocking success is Todd Monken. If you want to go further, the next step could be to overlay Herbert's pressure-to-sack profile with the protection structures used in Monken's Baltimore offenses, or to quantify how many sacks Herbert would likely gain or lose per season under each coach's typical approach. Normalizing for offensive line quality is the correct adjustment, because raw sack rates and pressure numbers can be misleading if they are not controlled for the underlying talent and health of the offensive line. The goal of normalization is to answer a more precise question. Given the quality of the offensive line, how much did the scheme improve or worsen pass protection outcomes relative to what that line should have been expected to allow? To do this properly, The evaluation should weight coaches based on the baseline quality of the offensive line, including factors such as draft capital, injuries, roster churn, and tiered talent assessments. The expected pressure and sack environment implied by that baseline. The actual pressure to sack outcomes achieved in that system, and whether those results held across multiple seasons and different contexts, rather than appearing as a one-year fluke. This approach avoids quarterback hero ball bias, avoids mistaking fast release and play design for genuine pass-blocking improvement, and prevents overreacting to isolated single-season outcomes. When offensive line quality is properly controlled for, the normalized results remain decisive. Todd Monken emerges as the clear number one after adjustment, because his offenses consistently outperform what the underlying offensive line talent would be expected to produce. During Monken's tenure with the Baltimore Ravens, the offensive line context was good, but not elite. The unit relied heavily on mid-round draft picks, rotated guards frequently, and dealt with ongoing injury churn. This was not a 5 All-Pro line by any stretch. Given that context, the expectation would have been above-average pressure and a normal sack environment. Instead, pressure-to-sack conversion dropped significantly. That gap between expectation and result is the key signal. Under Monken, free rushers were rare. Interior pressure was minimized even with average guard play. Tackles were seldom left isolated without help, and these improvements persisted across seasons. In short, Monken consistently generated better protection outcomes than the offensive line itself should have delivered. That is true system-level architectural value, not masking or quarterback improvisation. Brian Daboll ranks second after normalization and remains a net positive, though less efficient. In Buffalo, Daboll worked with an offensive line that was generally average to above average, featuring strong tackle play at times, but a weaker interior. Continuity along the line was relatively stable, which matters for protection outcomes. Given that baseline, league average pass protection would have been the expectation, and the actual results were league average to slightly above. That is competent, but not exceptional relative to talent. Where Daboll loses ground after normalization is in how protection problems are solved. His systems allow more edge isolation than necessary and rely more heavily on quarterback movement and escapability to resolve pressure. When offensive line talent dipped, as it later did during his Giants tenure, protection quality collapsed quickly. Daboll generally gets what the offensive line is worth, but rarely more than that. Mike McDaniel becomes neutral to negative after normalization, which is the most common point of confusion in these discussions. Miami's offensive line context under McDaniel was below average to poor, marked by injuries, replacement-level guard play, and weak anchors against power rushes. In that environment, the expectation would be very high pressure and sack totals. While sack totals were suppressed, pressure itself remained high. That reduction in sacks came not from improved pass blocking, but from ultra-fast quarterback release, heavy motion, run-pass options, and high screen volume. Those tools successfully mask offensive line weakness, but do not improve underlying pass block performance. When Miami was forced into long yardage situations, playoff environments, or true drop-back-only football, protection collapsed harder than baseline expectations. After proper normalization, McDaniel's impact on offensive line pass blocking is neutral to negative rather than positive. Kliff Kingsbury remains the worst even after adjustment. In Arizona, the offensive line was bad, but not historically catastrophic, and in Washington, it was closer to league average. Given those baselines, high pressure would have been expected. Instead, both pressure and sack outcomes were even worse than expected. This is the clearest tell. Kingsbury's systems consistently worsen offensive line outcomes relative to talent. Heavy reliance on five-man protections, lack of protection layering, and static answers versus blitz packages repeatedly expose linemen and create free rushers. Kingsbury subtracts value from offensive line pass blocking rather than adding it. The final normalized ranking, adjusted for offensive line quality, is unchanged. Todd Monken provides a strong positive impact. Brian Daboll offers a mild positive impact. Mike McDaniel is neutral to negative, and Kliff Kingsbury is strongly negative. For Justin Herbert, the implication is straightforward. Herbert has taken more sacks than his offensive line quality alone would explain, and has too often been forced to personally absorb protection failures. The best fit, therefore, is the coach who adds protection value independent of offensive line talent, reduces pressure to sack conversion, and preserves Herbert's ability to remain aggressive in the intermediate passing game. That coach is still Todd Monken, without hedging or qualification. Among Mike McDaniel, Todd Monken, Kliff Kingsbury, and Brian Daboll, the offensive system with the quickest time-to-throw profile is clearly Mike McDaniel. This conclusion is not based on reputation or stylistic labels, but on verified tracking data and league analysis. McDaniel stands alone because the speed of the quarterback's decision-making is structurally built into his offense rather than being an incidental outcome. An official National Football League next-gen stats analysis of the 2023 Miami Dolphins explicitly tied Tua Tagovailoa's league-leading average time to throw of 2.36 seconds directly to McDaniel's scheme. That analysis highlighted McDaniel's extreme use of shifts and motion, used on 75.9% of offensive plays, to force early defensive declarations, create immediate separation, and simplify reads. Importantly, the quick release did not come at the expense of aggression. The same analysis noted that Tagovailoa led the league with 741 passing yards on throws released in 2.5 seconds or less that still traveled 10 or more air yards, demonstrating the rare ability to get the ball out fast and still push it downfield. If the definition of a quick time-to-throw scheme is one that structurally enables fast decisions and early separation, McDaniel has the strongest verified evidence of that capability among these coaches. By comparison, Todd Monken can produce a fast time-to-throw profile, but not at the extreme level seen in McDaniel's offenses. Early season film analysis from Baltimore in 2023, citing next-gen stats, showed Lamar Jackson averaging 2.60 seconds to throw over the first 2 weeks of the season. That figure was 0.32 seconds faster than any previous season of Jackson's career, and the improvement was explicitly credited to Monken's offensive structure and its positive effect on the offensive line. While that is genuinely fast by National Football League standards, it does not reach the league-leading extreme demonstrated by McDaniel's Dolphins. Kliff Kingsbury carries an air raid reputation, but the measurable time-to-throw results in the National Football League do not support the idea that his offenses are among the fastest trigger systems. An NFL.com analysis citing next-gen stats reported that Kyler Murray's average time to throw in 2021 was 2.77 seconds, and approximately 2.8 seconds in the opening week of the 2022 season against Kansas City. That same analysis argued that Murray often relied on athleticism and play extension rather than consistently delivering the ball quickly. While Kingsbury's offenses include quick game elements, the actual quarterback behavior did not approach the fastest in the league territory occupied by McDaniel's system. Finally, Daboll historically produces the slowest time-to-throw profile of the group. A Colts.com analysis citing next-gen stats noted that Josh Allen's average time to throw during the 2020 season was 3.04 seconds, which ranked as the third slowest among qualifying quarterbacks. The piece explicitly stated that Allen has not exactly led a quick-passing offense, and that 2020 Buffalo unit was coordinated by Daboll. Relative to the other candidates, Daboll's baseline is the longest hold profile, driven by deeper concepts, quarterback-driven problem-solving, and tolerance for extended plays. The straight answer is that McDaniel is the best match for a quick time-to-throw scheme, based on verified next-gen stats reporting that attributes the league's fastest average release time directly to his offensive design. If you want to take this one step further, the next logical step would be to translate what a McDaniel-style quick trigger system would look like for Justin Herbert. Specifically, which route families, protections, and read structures could lower Herbert's time to throw without sacrificing his ability to generate explosive plays. Best fit for Justin Herbert, based on pass protection and quarterback fit. Todd Monken emerges as the best overall fit for Justin Herbert if the goal is to maximize him as a full-field, big-arm drop-back passer while simultaneously improving pass protection. Monken's offenses have consistently operated behind top-tier pass-block win rate environments, which is exactly what Herbert needs if the Chargers want to live in intermediate and deep passing concepts without exposing him to constant hits. Herbert's skill set thrives when the offense can sustain protection long enough to attack the middle of the field, rather than forcing quick escapes or improvisation. If the Chargers are also able to land an elite offensive line coach, such as Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, to fix technique, communication, and fundamentals, the pairing of Monken and Callahan represents the cleanest and most Herbert-ready configuration available. Best architect of pass blocking among available coaches. When isolating pass blocking architecture strictly among available candidates, it is important to distinguish between offensive line technique coaching and system-level protection design. On the offensive line coach side, Bill Callahan stands as the closest thing to a consensus A-list pass protection architect. He is a recipient of the Pro Football Writers of America Paul Dr. Z. Zimmerman Award, which is specifically designed to recognize the league's top assistant coaches and is one of the strongest third-party endorsements an offensive line coach can receive. Callahan also became available after leaving Tennessee following the Titans' dismissal of his son, Brian Callahan, making him a realistic option in the current hiring cycle. Mike Munchak closely follows as a clear second option. His credibility in offensive line rooms is elite, and even the Denver Broncos' own announcement when they hired him highlighted his role in transforming Pittsburgh's offensive line from one of the league's worst sack rate units into an elite protection group. The distinction between Callahan and Munchak is not quality, but certainty. Callahan is the most reliable plug-and-play pass protection teacher, while Munchak's availability and role preference are more conditional. On the offensive coordinator side, when comparing Todd Monken, Mike McDaniel, Kliff Kingsbury, and Brian Daboll strictly as pass protection architects at the scheme level, the strongest evidence for consistently strong protection environments points to Todd Monken. His Ravens offenses maintain top 10 pass block win rate rankings across multiple seasons, which is rare for a system that does not rely heavily on quick game shortcuts. Verification using pass block win rate as a normalization proxy. To verify pass blocking quality in a way that allows fair comparison, ESPN's team pass block win rate is a useful public proxy. Pass block win rate measures how often offensive linemen sustain their blocks for at least 2.5 seconds. giving the quarterback time to operate. While it is not perfect, personnel and offensive line coaching matter. It is one of the cleanest apples-to-apples measures available across teams and seasons. Under Todd Monken in Baltimore from 2023 through 2025, the Ravens posted pass block win rates of 68% in 2023, fourth in the league, 70% in 2024, third, and 69% in 2025, seventh. That produces a three-year average of roughly 69%, with an average league rank around fifth, which qualifies as consistently elite. Under Brian Daboll in Buffalo from 2020 through 2021, the Bills recorded pass block win rates of 64% in both seasons, ranking fourth in 2020 and eighth in 2021. That profile is strong and functional, though not dominant. Kliff Kingsbury's Arizona offenses from 2020 through 2022 posted a 67% pass block win rate in 2020, third, followed by 61% in 2021, 12th, and 61% in 2022, 14th, resulting in a generally above-average profile with one elite outlier year. By contrast, Mike McDaniel's Miami offenses from 2022 through 2025 produced pass block win rates of 55%, 24th, 2023, 2024, 2025, 61%, 14th, 56%, 28th, and 59%, 24th, yielding an average of 57.8% and an average rank in the low 20s. When these results are normalized using pass block win rate as a proxy for line quality and protection environment, the hierarchy becomes clear. Todd Monken provides the strongest pure pass blocking environment, followed by Brian Daboll and Kliff Kingsbury in a similar but less consistent tier, with Mike McDaniel trailing due to persistently low pass block win rate outcomes. That said, there is an important caveat. Mike McDaniel's offense is intentionally designed to function without requiring a high pass block win rate. His system relies on extreme time-to-throw reduction, motion, and early separation to survive mediocre protection. In other words, McDaniel's normalization advantage is not that he improves pass blocking, but that his offense can function even when pass blocking is subpar, because the ball comes out so quickly. Which coordinator has the quickest time-to-throw scheme? Among the candidates, Mike McDaniel is clearly the coordinator whose system produces the fastest time to throw. National Football League Next Gen Stats explicitly credited McDaniel's offensive structure for generating Tua Tagovailoa's league-leading average time to throw of 2.36 seconds, driven by extreme use of motion and pre-snap shifts to force early defensive declarations and create immediate separation. The significance is that this quickness was not achieved solely through screens or checkdowns. Tagovailoa also led the league in yardage on quick throws that still traveled 10 or more air yards. If the single biggest goal is to reduce hits on Justin Herbert, while the offensive line is being rebuilt, McDaniel's approach has the strongest publicly verified evidence of scheme-driven quickness. Quarterback development and what each coach does best. Mike McDaniel's calling card is his ability to build motion and spacing-based systems that generate fast answers and yards after the catch. His Dolphins offense produced league-leading quick trigger numbers, and he is currently available after Miami moved on following the 2025 season. For Herbert, McDaniel would be a strong fit if the priority is immediate reduction in hits, faster decisions, and explosive yards after the catch, particularly while pass protection remains a work in progress. Todd Monken offers a different profile. He has served as offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens since 2023 and has drawn head coaching interest based on the success of his offenses. Team and league coverage consistently described Baltimore's offense as prolific under Monken in 2023 and 2024, even acknowledging some late regression. Most importantly, Monken's offenses have operated behind consistently top-tier pass-block win rate environments, ranking in the top 7 each season in the relevant sample. For Herbert, Monken represents the best complete offense fit, one that allows a big-arm quarterback to attack the full field, live in intermediate and deep concepts, and still benefit from a functional, quick game rather than being limited by it. Brian Daboll's reputation is anchored in quarterback development, particularly his work with Josh Allen in Buffalo from 2018 through 2021. Team materials and league reporting explicitly credit Daboll with helping engineer Allen's dramatic statistical and efficiency jump. Daboll became available after being fired by the New York Giants during the 2025 season. For Herbert, Daboll presents a strong quarterback developer profile that aligns well with elite arm talent, but his most aggressive and successful versions typically require pairing with an elite offensive line coach to avoid exposing the quarterback to unnecessary hits. Kliff Kingsbury brings a different kind of resume. Patrick Mahomes has publicly credited Kingsbury as an early mentor during his Texas Tech days, underscoring Kingsbury's credibility in quarterback confidence and spacing concepts. However, Washington moved on from Kingsbury after the 2025 season, and National Football League reporting noted that the offense finished 22nd in both points and yards that year. For Herbert, Kingsbury could help with spacing and structure in the passing game, but his National Football League track record has been volatile year to year compared to the other candidates. The Chargers' specific reality check. When applying all of this specifically to the Chargers, the dominant red flag is pass protection. The Chargers' 2025 team pass block win rate was 54%, worst in the National Football League, and the organization responded by firing both offensive coordinator Greg Roman and offensive line coach Mike Devlin in January 2026. That combination makes one point unavoidable. This cannot be solved by hiring only a play caller. Any Herbert-centric plan must include a comprehensive offensive line rebuild, both in coaching and personnel. Final answer. Who fits Justin Herbert best given everything above? The Tier 1 recommendation is Todd Monken as offensive coordinator and play caller, paired with Bill Callahan as offensive line coach. This pairing works because Monken has the strongest pass protection environment track record among the coordinator options, consistently ranking in the top 7 in pass block win rate. Monken's offense gives Herbert permission to be a high-end drop-back and shot passer, rather than forcing him into a purely rhythm-based role. Callahan, meanwhile, is the most credible immediate pass-blocking technician available, with a long track record of rapidly improving offensive line fundamentals and communication. If the top priority is instead to get the ball out as fast as possible while the offensive line is being fixed, Mike McDaniel becomes the best short-term Herbert fit due to the league-best time-to-throw evidence tied directly to his scheme. Even in that scenario, however, McDaniel would still need to be paired with an elite offensive line coach, such as Callahan or Mike Munchak, to address the underlying protection problem. In short, Monken plus a top-tier offensive line coach is the best long-term solution for maximizing Justin Herbert without sacrificing durability, while McDaniel represents the most effective short-term mitigation strategy if immediate hit reduction is the overriding concern. Kevin Patullo in the Justin Herbert conversation: what he is not, and where he ranks. Kevin Patullo's candidacy needs to be framed carefully because his resume shows real strengths, but also clear limitations when evaluated against Justin Herbert's specific needs. From an availability standpoint, Patullo was removed as the Philadelphia Eagles' offensive coordinator on January 13, 2026, after one season calling the offense. Reporting at the time also indicated that head coach Nick Sirianni was open to retaining Patullo in a different role, meaning Patullo may or may not end up fully on the open market, depending on how Philadelphia ultimately structures its staff. What Patullo has demonstrated over his career is meaningful experience in quarterback development and passing game design, rather than offensive line or protection architecture. He began as quarterback's coach for the New York Jets from 2015 to 2016, where the Eagles media guide credits him with helping Ryan Fitzpatrick produce a career-high 3,905 passing yards and a team-record 31 touchdown passes in 2015. He then served as wide receivers coach and passing game specialist for the Indianapolis Colts from 2018 through 2020. Team materials from that period note that the 2020 Colts allowed just 21 sacks, tied for the second fewest in the league, while Philip Rivers posted strong efficiency metrics, including completion percentage and yardage totals. From 2021 through 2024, Patullo was the Eagles' passing game coordinator and later associate head coach. According to the Eagles' own bios, during that span, Philadelphia's passing offense ranked second in receiving average, third in yards per attempt, and sixth in interception rate. ESPN reporting further described Patullo as a key weekly preparation figure, with quarterback Kenny Pickett calling him an unsung hero and noting his role in designing and executing the two-minute offense. Taken together, the positive case for Patullo is real. He has worked in functional National Football League passing games, brings situational value, and has experience coaching multiple quarterback styles. The concerns emerge when evaluating Patullo as the primary offensive coordinator and play caller. In 2025, when he ran the entire Eagles offense, the unit regressed sharply overall. ESPN and the team's own communications confirmed that Philadelphia finished 24th in total offense and 19th in scoring. ESPN reported that scoring dropped from 27.2 points per game, 7th in the league the previous year, to 22.3 points per game, 19th overall. Offensive efficiency fell from 4th to 19th, and rushing production dropped from 2nd to 18th. Injuries along the offensive line played a significant role. Lane Johnson missed 7 games, and Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens were not fully healthy, but the overall picture was one of inconsistency. There were bright spots. The Eagles posted a 70.5% red zone touchdown rate, the best in team history, and tied for the 4th fewest turnovers in the league. Even so, ESPN noted that the offense led the league in 3-and-outs and struggled to sustain rhythm week to week. The net result is that Patullo graded positively in red zone and situational football, but negatively in overall offensive identity and consistency when acting as the primary play caller. When viewed through the lens of a quick time-to-throw scheme, Patullo does not stand out relative to the top options. Publicly available advanced statistics show Jalen Hurts averaging approximately 2.80 seconds time to throw in 2025, while Justin Herbert averaged roughly 2.74 seconds that same season. Those figures sit squarely in league average territory and do not suggest a scheme that structurally manufactures the fastest trigger quarterback in football. By contrast, Mike McDaniel's system produced a league-leading 2.36-second average time to throw for Tua Tagovailoa, with that result explicitly attributed to scheme design rather than quarterback tendency. In the quick time to throw category, McDaniel remains the clear leader, and Patullo does not fall into that tier based on the best publicly available data. Patullo also does not profile as a pass protection architect. His background is firmly rooted in quarterback coaching and passing game design rather than offensive line structure. While some of the offenses he has been part of posted low sack totals, such as the 2020 Colts, that alone does not establish him as an outlier in protection architecture in the way an elite offensive line coach like Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, or a protection-centric coordinator, would be. If the core thesis is that Herbert needs structural pass protection, Patullo is not the strongest bet, especially given that his only season running the full offense coincided with a significant efficiency drop and substantial offensive line health issues. Taken together, Kevin Patullo does not profile as a Tier 1 offensive coordinator fit for Justin Herbert. As a primary play caller, he would represent a high-variance gamble. He has only one season as a full-time offensive coordinator. That season ended with the team moving on, and the offense lacked consistency despite strong skill position talent. Betting Herbert's prime on that profile would be difficult to justify relative to more proven options. Where Patullo does make sense is as a secondary or complementary hire. He fits much better as a passing game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, or situational specialist, particularly in areas like red zone design and two-minute offense construction, where Philadelphia excelled in 2025. Paired with a lead offensive coordinator such as Todd Monken or Brian Daboll, Patullo's strengths could be additive without placing the entire offensive burden on his play calling. The clean takeaway is this: if the question is whether Patullo should be the offensive coordinator for Justin Herbert, the answer is no, not over the top candidates already discussed. If the question is whether Patullo would be a smart addition to a Herbert-focused staff in a defined support role, the answer is yes. His passing game and situational strengths have value, as long as his role does not require him to be the sole architect of the offense or the protection plan. Kevin Stefanski versus John Gruden as a Justin Herbert fit. From an availability and realism standpoint, Kevin Stefanski and John Gruden sit in very different categories. Kevin Stefanski is a conventional hire in the 2026 cycle. Cleveland dismissed him after the 2025 season, and he has already been active in the interview circuit, including reported interest from teams such as Atlanta. John Gruden, by contrast, is not currently in the National Football League. In 2024, he took an advisory role with the Milano Seamen in the European League of Football, and his lawsuit against the NFL remains active, with the league seeking dismissal after the case returned to state court. That legal and public relations backdrop represents a genuine friction point for any potential return. Practically speaking, Stefanski is a normal, executable hire, while Gruden is a high-friction, high-uncertainty option. When evaluating pass protection using ESPN's pass block win rate as a proxy for offensive line performance, Stefanski holds a clear edge. Pass block win rate measures how often offensive linemen sustain their blocks for at least 2.5 seconds, providing a reasonable apples-to-apples indicator of pass protection environment. Under Stefanski, the Browns posted a 71% pass block win rate in 2020, second best in the league, and 67% in 2021, fourth best. That represents an elite year-over-year pass protection environment. Gruden's Raiders teams posted solid but declining results, with a 63% rate in 2019, 5th, 60% in 2020, 10th, and 59% in 2021, 21st. Purely by pass block win rate, Stefanski's offenses clearly outperformed Gruden's. There is important context, however, when normalizing for offensive line quality. Stefanski's best pass block win rate seasons coincided with Cleveland having one of the league's strongest offensive line situations, combining high-end personnel with strong offensive line coaching. In this sense, pass block win rate describes the environment Stefanski operated within, not proof that he alone created it. For the Chargers, the normalization question becomes critical. If the organization believes it can rebuild pass protection through elite offensive line coaching, such as hiring Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, and real personnel investment, then Stefanski's style becomes far more attractive. If that confidence does not exist, then a coordinator whose system is less dependent on elite pass block win rate becomes more appealing. The two coaches diverge sharply when it comes to time-to-throw profile. Gruden's offenses are built around a quick-trigger, timing-based passing game. An official Colts.com scouting notebook citing National Football League next-gen stats reported that Derek Carr tied for the fastest average time to throw in the league in 2018 at 2.55 seconds, and through the first 3 games of the 2019 season was even faster at 2.51 seconds. That data strongly supports the idea that Gruden's system structurally encourages fast decisions and rapid ball release. Stefanski's offenses, on the other hand, skew toward play action, rollouts, and longer developing concepts. A National Football League next-gen stats all-pro write-up on the 2020 Browns explicitly noted that Cleveland had a slower average time to throw because of heavy play-action usage and moving launch points, citing figures of 3.04 seconds time to throw and 3.25 seconds time to hurry. Stefanski's system is not designed to be the fastest trigger offense. It is designed to protect the quarterback with structure, run game leverage, and defined reads that develop over time. When translated to Justin Herbert, the fit depends heavily on the Chargers' offensive line plan. If the Chargers can genuinely fix pass protection through elite coaching and roster investment, Stefanski is the better Herbert fit. Herbert is at his best when the offense can marry the run game with play action and allow him to attack the intermediate and deep areas of the field without operating in constant panic. Stefanski has proven he can run an offense in an elite pass protection environment, and his system benefits enormously from real blocking integrity rather than requiring instant throws on every snap. If, however, the Chargers expect pass protection to remain shaky in the short term and want to immediately reduce hits on Herbert, Gruden's on-field offensive style checks the fast answers box more clearly. There is direct, tracking-based evidence that quarterbacks in his system operated with very fast time-to-throw profiles. That said, 2 major caveats apply. First, Gruden's legal situation and the associated public and organizational risk make him a difficult hire to execute. Second, even if the quick game translates, hiring Gruden requires betting on how well his system adapts to modern defenses and whether he can assemble a contemporary coaching staff. The bottom line is that, combining football fit and real-world feasibility, Stefanski is the better option for Justin Herbert, especially if paired with a top-tier offensive line coach and meaningful offensive line investment. Gruden offers the quicker trigger offensive profile between the two, but he represents a much higher variance and harder to execute path. Assuming you mean Mike McCarthy, he is legitimately available and worth discussing, even if he is more likely targeting a head coaching role than an offensive coordinator position. After leaving Dallas when contract talks did not result in an extension, McCarthy chose not to coach during the 2025 National Football League season, and instead positioned himself for the 2026 hiring cycle. Reporting at the time noted that the Cowboys moved on and promoted Brian Schottenheimer, which aligns with McCarthy being out of a job. For a Chargers or Justin Herbert-focused evaluation, the relevant question is not whether McCarthy wants to be an offensive coordinator, but whether his offensive profile fits Herbert's needs. McCarthy's modern offensive identity, particularly during his Dallas tenure, was branded as the Texas Coast offense. At its core, this is a West Coast foundation designed to operate in the quarterback's language, streamline communication, and give the quarterback greater authority before the snap. That philosophy aligns well with Herbert's strengths. Herbert is at his best when the pre-snap picture is clean, when he can set protections or adjust concepts at the line, and when he can attack intermediate and deep throws on rhythm rather than improvising under duress. Quarterback development is one of the strongest parts of McCarthy's resume. Green Bay's own historical materials describe him as quarterback-friendly, noting that Aaron Rodgers developed into a two-time most valuable player within McCarthy's system. In Dallas, McCarthy reclaimed play-calling duties in 2023 after moving on from Kellen Moore, and the results were substantial. Dak Prescott threw for 4,516 yards, with 36 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions over 17 games. Production that underscores McCarthy's ability to structure an offense that allows a quarterback to play fast, confident, and in control. For Herbert, that translates to credible evidence that McCarthy can teach the position and design an offense that empowers elite passers. The central question, however, is pass protection environment. Using ESPN's team pass block win rate as a proxy for offensive line pass protection, McCarthy's recent results in Dallas were not elite. The Cowboys posted a pass block win rate of 57% in both 2023 and 2024, ranking 20th and 24th in the league respectively. That profile matters because Herbert's most pressing issue is not talent or processing, but exposure. The Chargers finished the 2025 season with a pass block win rate of 54%, worst in the league. If the team is hiring an offensive coordinator for a quarterback coming off a bottom-of-the-league protection environment, the key question becomes whether that coordinator has demonstrated the ability to elevate pass protection outcomes. Based on McCarthy's recent Cowboys data, there is not strong evidence that his offenses consistently operated in top-tier pass protection environments. That does not mean he is poor at protection calls, but it does mean he is not clearly a pass-blocking architect in the way some other candidates are. From a time-to-throw perspective, McCarthy does incorporate a meaningful amount of quick game, particularly in his later Dallas offenses. Film and analytics commentary on the 2023 Cowboys noted an increased reliance on quick-hitting concepts, which supports the idea that McCarthy can build an offense around fast answers when needed. However, the strongest and most verifiable fastest time-to-throw profiles in the league remain associated with motion-heavy systems like Mike McDaniel's, not McCarthy's. McCarthy can use quick game, but his offenses are not defined by an ultra-fast, league-leading release identity. Taken together, McCarthy's value for Herbert lies in quarterback teaching, structure, and empowerment. He offers a West Coast backbone that supports rhythm throws while still allowing for intermediate and deep shot plays, and he has a long track record of helping high-end quarterbacks operate with confidence and control. Where he falls short is in being the primary solution to a severely broken pass protection environment, or in delivering the fastest trigger offense in football. Given Herbert's current reality, those are significant constraints. If McCarthy were hired anyway, the correct structural pairing would be critical. He would need to be matched with an A-plus offensive line coach, such as Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, because McCarthy's case rests on quarterback structure and offensive system, not on personally transforming poor offensive lines into strong pass-blocking units. The quick verdict is that McCarthy is a solid Herbert fit from a quarterback structure and teaching standpoint. But he is not the best answer to Herbert's two biggest challenges: elite pass protection architecture and an ultra-quick time-to-throw identity. If you want, I can slot McCarthy directly against Todd Monken, Brian Daboll, and Mike McDaniel in the same tiered framework and show exactly where he lands given the Chargers' 2025 pass block win rate reality. Tommy Rees fits awkwardly, but interestingly, into a Justin Herbert-focused offensive coordinator conversation. From a status standpoint, Rees was promoted to offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns in January 2025, after serving as tight ends coach and passing game specialist in 2024. During the 2025 season, Kevin Stefanski initially retained play-calling duties, but after a 2-6 start and a bottom-tier offense, Stefanski handed play-calling to Rees beginning in Week 10 following the bye. Cleveland ultimately finished 5-12, and the organization later moved on from Stefanski, leaving Rees with a partial season sample as the primary play-caller. Rees does not profile as a pure, quick time-to-throw scheme designer in the way Mike McDaniel does, but there is evidence that his offenses can operate at normal to slightly quick timing when the quarterback plays on schedule. According to National Football League Next Gen Stats reporting, Dillon Gabriel's average time to throw in his first start under Rees was 2.54 seconds, with a heavy emphasis on quick completions. Across the broader Cleveland sample, Gabriel averaged 2.73 seconds to throw over 6 starts. Joe Flacco averaged 2.85 seconds over 4 starts, and Shedeur Sanders averaged 3.35 seconds over 4 starts, the slowest among qualifying quarterbacks, which Sanders himself acknowledged was partly due to holding the ball too long. The takeaway is that Rees's offense does not force a lightning-fast trigger. Time to throw varies significantly by quarterback profile, suggesting adaptability, but not a built-in speed advantage. When normalizing for offensive line quality, it is important to note that Rees was not operating in a protection environment as poor as the one Justin Herbert faced in 2025. Using ESPN's team pass block win rate as a proxy, the Browns posted a 63% pass block win rate in 2025, ranking 20th in the league, squarely middle of the pack. By contrast, the Chargers finished at 54%, dead last in the National Football League. In his own press availabilities, Rees spoke explicitly about needing enough in the protection scheme to give the quarterback multiple answers. That awareness is encouraging, but it does not establish him as an elite pass protection architect. If Rees were hired with Herbert in mind, he would still need to be paired with a top-tier offensive line coach, such as Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, to address structural protection issues. Rees's actual National Football League play-calling results represent the largest red flag when evaluating him as a Herbert-era offensive coordinator. When Stefanski relinquished play-calling duties, the Browns' offense was averaging just 263.5 yards per game and 15.8 points per game, which is why the change was made in the first place. By season's end, Cleveland ranked bottom 6 in passing offense, rushing offense, total offense, and scoring. That said, the context was extreme. The 2025 Browns offense was overwhelmingly rookie-driven, with rookies accounting for 83.7% of total offensive yards and rookie quarterbacks producing 83.2% of the passing yards. ESPN also noted that Cleveland's receiver room graded poorly by their metrics and that Sanders frequently faced quick, unblocked pressures. As a result, Rees's NFL play-calling sample is real but highly distorted. and it does not resemble a clean test with a stable veteran quarterback like Herbert. Quarterback development remains Rees's strongest selling point. At Notre Dame, he coached Ian Book, who became the winningest quarterback in program history. And the university credits Rees with developing multiple future National Football League draft picks during his tenure. At Alabama, Rees served as offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach on a team that won the Southeastern Conference Championship and reached the college football playoff. In Cleveland, ESPN reported that coaches praised improvements in Shedeur Sanders' footwork and pocket presence, even while acknowledging his tendency to hold the ball too long. Across stops, Rees has demonstrated adaptability and a willingness to tailor offenses to personnel rather than forcing a single rigid system. For Justin Herbert specifically, the honest assessment is that Rees is a high-upside but low-proof candidate. He is more projection and adaptability than plug-and-play elite National Football League offensive coordinator. He could work with Herbert because he is explicitly committed to tailoring schemes to the roster, shows process-driven thinking around counters and answers, and has experience teaching quarterbacks rather than merely calling plays. Herbert, as a high-end processor with elite arm talent, is exactly the type of quarterback who can accelerate a young coordinator's credibility. However, compared to the top-tier options already discussed, Rees falls short as a primary answer. His only NFL play-calling stretch occurred during a season in which the offense remained bottom-tier overall. The Browns' pass protection environment was middling rather than elite, while the Chargers' 2025 environment was the worst in the league, making the translation challenge enormous. Additionally, the verified time-to-throw data does not indicate a scheme that reliably manufactures instant answers regardless of quarterback profile. The Herbert-specific conclusion is straightforward. If the question is, who is the best fit for Herbert right now, Rees ranks below the proven NFL play callers you have been comparing. If the question is Rees worth considering as part of a broader staff build focused on quarterback development? The answer is yes, but only if he is paired with a Tier 1 offensive line coach such as Callahan or Munchak, and, ideally, an experienced protection or run game coordinator to stabilize the floor. If you want, he can be stacked directly against Monken, Daboll, McDaniel, Stefanski, and McCarthy using the same rubric: pass block win rate environment, time to throw evidence, quarterback development track record, and dependence on Eli.